this is morphing between ratio, but using a modulator to automatically do it. And the first one is a follower. So there's the modulation that's happening based on the settings. I did a couple different passes. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And another cool thing with these modulators is the waveform way. Now, this would automatically create a synchronized wave application to the effect. So it's going to go along this wave to affect this ratio. But if I randomize it, what's happening here is the ratio is basically just these two channels. And what's occurring is they're both running through the mmorph. And I guess the best way to see it is actually through like the main device of the system. So the A is one channel and the B is another channel. You can swap the channels. You can change the buffer size. But all it's really doing is, since I have these channels set up through sidechain, it's just going back and forth, but it's using the morphing system, which basically is a system of sort of like vocoding that's capturing certain elements of the sound and spectrally crossfading between the two elements. So another thing is like, that's one way it sounds, but what if I swap A, B? What does it sound like? So we have a little differential. If I utilize the tone knob, that pretty much is just adjusting like these settings so that you can create additional, let's say, whitening or darkening of the mix. So these are some basic ways to go about it. I thought it was really cool just by random stuff. You can also do pitch-based following, or you can just use the regular follower and kind of mess with the detector settings. But just right from the bat, you can mess with different oscillators, which I thought was cool. But you can also synchronize the oscillator, which adds that gel factor. You can also increase the speed. You can insert your own oscillator, drawings or whatever. Then you have this harmonic way to get in here. So you could make it sound like this, which is going to be pretty heavily modulated. But here, we'll swap the AB again. Probably a little difficult to hear, but the sweeping in that really makes it nice. It's a really cool way to transition between the two sounds that are still this little motion here. Now, if I went like this, you should hear like less of a sweep, but obviously a different style of effect happening. Sort of descending. That's why I feel like the gate matrix concept is very important, because the new thing with sound design is this heavy layer of encoding, which is kind of tedious, but once you start like understanding how to get the bang for the buck out of it, it opens up some ways or some methods, but it's really a process where it's like everything sounds great, but then trying to mix with it and things like that, you have to have the idea for what you want to do, because otherwise you'll just end up like with so many hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of sounds, and then it's just the sound design piece, and that's okay too. But it's just in general, you're looking for the sound bite, for a specific thing. So you can create like a chord, like I did here, and then have something with motion in the back. And the thing with motion in the back can be a synth or any kind of sound really. That motion is adding a spectral bleed into the sound, which is then being synthesized together in a sort of hybrid fashion by this mmorph to make it seem like a completely different sound, which it obviously is. So you're really spectralizing to the umpth degree, and then you're adding a rhythmic component through the modulator. But it doesn't have to be rhythmic, of course, because you can use these other ways of going at it with the envelopes and the followers, randomization, pitch. So it's a real mouthful to get your head wrapped around the power of something like this plugin. And this is like just for morphing, but they have similar ways of sidechaining with all of their plugins that can create some really unique new kinds of sounds. And that's where it's really heading. It's like the novelty of traditional music is always going to be there, but in terms of making discoveries of sound, it's really in the matrix of the morphing in between the spectrums of sound to create new styles of instruments from this spectral extraction.